Hi everyone, I'm Goose, or Harry if you want to call me Harry, and I am obsessed with Cinderella. Everybody, I think, knows what Cinderella is. It's a well-known story about a girl who goes from rags to riches. She usually has an evil stepmom and some kind of magical force that is helping her to get ready for a ball. But does it always involve these elements? Iterations can be found in ancient Greece with the story of Rhodopis. That is, if we count an eagle as a fairy godmother and a sandal as a glass slipper. The story is kind of like it's debated on whether it's a Cinderella story. When I was looking for the oldest iteration of a Cinderella story, that's the first one that pops up. But it seems to be pretty disputed on whether it is actually the oldest one or not. This story is about a girl who is a slave along with Aesop, and she is taking a bath. I don't know how Greek baths work. Like, did she just fold up her clothes and her sandals are on top? They're out in the open. An eagle snatches up one of her slippers, flies to the king of Greece, I guess, and drops the sandal in his lap. And he is so enamored by this sandal and so intrigued. He's like, this sandal is so beautiful. Which, a little bit of a red flag, if you're asking my opinion. He sees the sandal and he's like, oh my gosh, this is so intriguing. This is so, I'm mystified by it. I have to find out who owns this sandal. And he goes and looks for her and then finds her. They get married. And I think that's why it's counted as a Cinderella story, but I'm not sure if it's the oldest one. More likely, the oldest one is a Chinese version, which is about Ye Xian. It's more similar to the story we know and love, except Ye Xian's father is married to the stepmom and her mom, Ye Xian's mom, at the same time. The first wife, Ye Xian's mom, dies first, gets reincarnated as a fish, which acts effectively as the fairy godmother of this tale, which I think is really cool. This golden fish talks to Ye Xian about, how to get more status in her life and guides her and is there for her. But the stepmother discovers this along with Ye Xian's cousin, and they both kill the fish. And I just love this. So Ye Xian is obviously understandably sad about this and is crying and weeping over the death of her mom fish. And the fish from the dead, I guess, speaks to her and is like, don't worry about it. I can still guide you if you take my bones and put them underneath your pillowcase, then I can talk to you in your dreams. And so Ye Xian does this. Yeah, I guess get spoken to by her mom, fairy godmother. Which kind of baller. I mean, kind of sick. Probably did not smell great. Let's be real. Well, if she cleaned the bones well, I don't know, that's a really interesting, oh gosh, what are those called? Where they put the herbs in them? Oh. Potpourri. Purry or something like that. Something, but it's fish bones. I'm trying to make a joke and it's not even working because I don't know the name. That's a pretty intense potpourri if that's the name of whatever this thing is. She has this fishbone bag underneath her bed, and it helps her get these beautiful fabrics for a dress for the New Year's festival. She goes to the New Year's festival. I don't know if there's a disguise involved in this one, which is also a really big theme with Cinderella, is that there is a disguise that she wears and kind of deceives the prince, which I think is interesting because Cinderella is often viewed as a very kind, good-natured. The thing about her is that she is so pure of heart that that's why the prince falls for her. It's not because of her appearance, but because he can actually tell who she truly is, despite her appearance, despite the fact that he can't recognize her when she doesn't have the fancy clothes on. But it's interesting that there is an element of deception in Cinderella's story. Back to Ye Xian's story. She goes to the New Year's festival. The prince falls in love with her. They end up married. The whole thing. And it kind of continues beyond their story in this version, because she takes like extensive revenge on her family when she is like queen. And I was looking on Reddit. I was reading through, different versions of Cinderella and the discussion about it, and I'll try to include a screenshot somewhere of this. But someone said in the Vietnamese version, the heroine is killed by her stepmother and gets reincarnated as a bird that sings to the king. The bird is then killed and transformed into a beautiful tree that the king hangs his hammock on. And then she also grinds her cousin into a meat paste and gives it to her stepmother as a wedding gift. The stepmother eats this paste every day, not realizing until she gets to the bottom of it and it reveals his bare skull. And then the stepmother dies from shock. I'm not laughing because this is funny. It's just interesting though that Ye Xin, like in this Vietnamese version, she becomes reincarnated as a bird that sings to the king, and then a beautiful tree that the king hangs his hammock on. Like everything she does is for the king. It's like, come on, girl. When you die, it's still death does you part. You don't have to like stick around. In one African version, the fairy godmother is a frog that swallows Cinderella and then spits her back out into her beautiful garb. And then when she changes back out of the garb, the frog swallows her again and then spits her back out in her normal clothing, which I think is super baller. And there's like a theme more often than the fairy godmother, the woman. I feel like there's a theme of it being mystical animals. Even with the Grimm's fairy tale version, it's two doves. And they kind of represent like, the Son and the Holy Ghost, and then the tree is the Father, I think is what Grimm fairy tales was going for. But the doves are along with the tree, they're the fairy godmother, and they're the ones that grant the wishes. They also peck out the eyes of the stepsisters. The doves also point out when the stepsisters are like, they cut off their toes, right? Everybody knows this. The Grimm fairy tale, they cut off their toes or their heel, and the doves will be like, hey, they're bleeding. Don't you see? They're bleeding. That shoe doesn't fit them, which means that the shoe is bloody. Okay. And then, so the prince takes it back, and he's like, actually, ew, get away from me. Takes this shoe, and then keeps having people try it on. I feel like if I were the prince, that would have been my limit. I think I would have been done if a girl had cut off her toes to fit into a shoe, like her pinky or big toe, to fit into a shoe. I would have been like, I think the dating scene is not for me. I think it's time for me to go home and find a duchess from another country on Royal Hinge. You know what I mean? The Royal Hinge that existed back then. That type of thing. Like, I would be done. But he does not give up until he finds Cinderella, which, good for him. But also, like, they're left with a bloody slipper. Twice bloodied. That's crazy. The more I've been learning about Cinderella in my search for every single Cinderella version and movie known to man, I found that Cinderella is a genre, or an archetype, I guess you would call it. It's about a girl of lesser standing who is raised in her status by what seems like mystical means. It's interesting to see this theme continue to be popular today, I think. I was thinking about it and I was like, even every K-drama out there, I feel like kind of has a Cinderella element to it. There are so many K-dramas I can think about that are Cinderella-esque, where she puts on a disguise, he doesn't know who she is, and then he has to find her. That's been a really big theme with a lot of K-dramas I've been seeing lately. Will I be covering K-dramas on this channel? Not yet. I'm gonna go through a bunch of movies first before I do series. But if you guys want to see any series, even books, or like anything, I am so down to look at it. Just anything that is kind of Cinderella-esque that you think fits into the Cinderella archetype. a girl whose wish is granted, is basically what it is, then I would love to hear it. If you put it in the comments down below, I will start making an Excel sheet of things that I want to cover. I already have 11 videos planned. For the next 2 videos, I'm going to be doing a Cinderella story, those series, because that's kind of what started this. Was I saw a Cinderella story, Starstruck, I think is what it's called. I'll put it up. And it kind of tickled me because I was like, already noticing, oh my gosh, there's so many Cinderella versions out there. There's too many for this Cinderella story, Starstruck, to just pop up, and it's like this cowgirl. And I watched it and I was like, this is so strange, and I'm so excited to cover it. I'm gonna be doing 2 parts for the Cinderella stories, 3 movies per part. I'm also, well, you'll find out. You'll find out what I'm gonna do. But it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be great. I'm really excited to just like discuss the different themes that are part of Cinderella. If you've clicked on this video, I feel like you're somewhat interested in Cinderella. I'd love for this channel to kind of be a discussion of that and for us to talk about it. I want to explore, like I said, every type of Cinderella movie. Obviously, I'm American. A lot of American media is saturated with the European version more than any other of Cinderella. But I'd love to see any Ye Shin adaptations. I saw, and this is on my list, so we're gonna cover it. This is for sure. There's a movie. I forgot the name of it. Oh gosh, what is it? I'm gonna pull it up really quick. Year of the Fish is a movie that I'm going to be covering. It's based off of the story of Ye Shin, is what I've heard. It's also completely rotoscoped, which is gonna be really cool. But yeah, if you guys can think of any like Cinderella movies that personally you're like, oh, I love this one, or this one's really interesting and weird, I'd love to see you cover it, please let me know in the comments. I would love to hear it. That'd be super awesome. I just like the idea of Cinderella and the fact that she is this like very hardworking person, and she deserves far more than what she gets initially in life, and then everything pays off in the end, which is kind of an unrealistic sort of message, it feels like today. But I mean, I don't know. I just want to live in my delusion. I like love the idea of Cinderella and the fact that she has her wish granted. How do I want to end this? I don't know. Thank you everyone for watching and clicking on this video if you have. I really appreciate it. Thank you for listening to my ramblings. I hope I like laid out for you what I'm gonna be covering. I think it should be clear what this channel is gonna be about. If it's not clear, you can ask, I guess, in the comments, but don't even worry about it. I just appreciate anybody who took the time to watch this, and if you want to discuss anything, please do in the comments section below. I would love that. That would be really cool. I hope you have a great evening. Thank you so much for watching. I'll have a better outro and intro later on. You know, this is my first time doing this, so kind of strange, kind of bizarre, but yeah. See you later. I'm with you in anything you do, but don't take